Hello, my name is Opal, and for Module 7, I'm focusing on family and child welfare and how social workers operate within different systems that impact children and families. I will compare public and private child welfare agencies, discuss a current issue in education, and explain how policy, ethics, and social work values shape decision making. This is important because children welfare systems directly affect safety, stability, and long-term outcomes for children. In my next slide, I'll be discussing public versus private agencies. Public and private child welfare agencies both serve children and families, but they are different in structure, authority, and flexibility. Public agencies are government run, which means they have legal authority to investigate abuse, remove children, and make court-related decisions. They serve a wide range of families, especially those experiencing abuse, neglect, or poverty. However, they tend to have large caseloads, strict policies, and less professional autonomy due to government regulations. On the other hand, private agencies usually focus on more specialized services like adoption, foster care placement, or therapy. They often have more flexible and can provide more individualized care, but they may have fewer resources like less stable funding. So in the quote here, differences in how services are organized and delivered can be contribute significantly to variation in outcomes experienced by children and families. This quote shows how services are organized affects outcomes. This means whether a family work with public or private agencies can change the type of quality of support they receive. It reinforces that the system and structures are not neutral. They shape real life experience and outcomes. And from my perspective, these differences matter because the way services are structured directly impacts how it affects the children and families. Micro, meso, and macro levels. Social work operates at three levels: micro, meso, and macro. At the micro level, social workers work directly with individuals and families, providing support and resources. At the meso level, they collaborate with schools, courts, and community organizations to create support systems. At the macro level, they advocate for policies and systemic change. For example, helping one child at a macro level may require working with their school, which is at a meso level, and advocating for better funding, which that is at a macro level. So the quote here says social work practice spans micro, meso, and macro levels. And this quote basically means that social work is not just about individual help, it involves addressing system and structures. It supports the idea that effective school social work requires understanding both personal and social factors. Education challenge. A major issue in education today is chronic absences, which became worse after COVID-19. This means students are missing a significant portion of school, which affects their academic performance and social development. It also impacts the sense of belonging and long-term success. So, from my perspective, this is not just an individual problem, it affects a larger systemic issue like poverty and access to resources. Students who miss school more frequently tend to have weaker in academic outcomes. So for this, how to advocate for it at these three different levels, we have to look at advocacy and intersectionality. Social workers address the absent problem at multiple levels. Micro, work directly with families to identify barriers like transportation, housing instability, or mental health challenges. Meso level, they work, they collaborate with schools to create programs like mentoring, outreach, and attendance support systems. At a macro level, they advocate for policies that improve access to resources like mental health services and transportation. Intersectionality is important because students may face multiple overlapping challenges at once. For example, a student could experience poverty, disability, and language barriers at the same time. The research shows that absences lead to weaker academic outcomes, which explains why intervention is necessary. So for this slide, policy ASFA is the Adoption and Safe Family Act was created to address concerns about children staying too long in foster care. It focused on child safety and creating permanent homes for children. The strength of the program was it prioritized safety and stability. The weakness of the program was that it can pressure agencies to make decisions quickly, sometimes before families receive enough support. This shows how policies can have both positive and negative impacts. And a quote here to describe it is the Adoption and Safe Families Act emphasizes children's safety and accelerated permanency planning for children in foster care. The ethical dilemma. A major ethical issue is balancing children's safety with family preservation. Like the quote here, child welfare decisions often involve balancing the need to protect children from harm with the goal of preserving family relationships. If a child is removed, they may be safer but experience trauma from the separation. If they remain, family bonds are preserved, but they may be at risk. Social workers must make complex decisions while considering both immediate safety and long-term well-being of the child. The NASW principle, the most relevant principle in importance of human relationships. So as it like this in this quote, human relationships are central to social work practice and our primary vehicle for change. Strong relationships between families, social workers, and communities are essential for positive outcomes. Trust and connections are often what makes intervention success. So, the importance of human relationships is to reunify family reunification, to put the child's well being before anything, in creating stable and supportive systems. Here are my references, and thank you for being a part of this presentation.